Okay, so welcome, Russ Scala, author of The American Biohacker. So, how are you? Fine, thanks. Welcome again on the podcast. So today we were talking about 1 meal a day diet. So let's talk about that. What kind of benefits does that diet provide?
And if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe so you can learn more about fitness and nutrition, hormones and anti-aging, all this to optimize your life overall. And hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything.
Well, Stephen, one of the things that we're seeing here with a lot of our athletes and clients is everybody wants to do intermittent fasting, and there's a lot of people asking questions about the carnivore diet. And a lot of people that we have want to evolve into 1 meal a day. So if we study some of the paleophysiology history, if we study what the anthropologists have done over the last 100 years, studying different cultures, we sort of know that where the human body was not designed to eat 3 meals a day in snacks with the elevated blood sugar, high hemoglobin A1C, elevated free radical damage. If you think about the 4 major causes of death, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and dementia, all of that is from chronic inflammation and elevated insulin. So this is why intermittent fasting, the carnivore diet, and what we're going to talk about today, the OMAD diet, 1 meal a day, is probably one of the most powerful tools that you can incorporate into your diet on a cellular level. Now let's think about the 3 groups of people that we have here that may be able to benefit or try this N-in-1 experiment. We've got people that are interested in performance, like you and I and the majority of the group. We've got the worried well that just maybe wants to lose a little weight and go to work and stay dialed in cognitively in the game. And then we got people with a pathology. Okay, last month we had a cancer patient that was sent to us with 6 months to live. We have brain injury patients that are rehabbing from traumatic brain injury and CTE, and we all incorporate the intermittent fasting, hormonal therapy, and the ketogenic diet, and we track what happens on a cellular level. So I don't want anybody to think that, I want people to understand, like my team in Orlando, I'm positioned inside an addiction center. We do advanced treatment protocols that you can't get anywhere. We do a lot of hormone replacement therapy, but a lot of our business model is focused on disease-specific treatments, and we're focused on advanced performance protocols, whether you're a mountain climber or you're an endurance athlete or you're somebody that wants to put on more muscle. So a lot of the thinking, Stephen, people really believe that you've got to eat 3 meals a day and 3 snacks to maintain quality muscle mass. And a lot of that thinking, the research is out there, it's changing. So what I want to do, I don't want to use any sweeping generalizations here, but I want people to start thinking about their physiology, elevated blood glucose, and just to consider 1 meal a day intermittent fasting, because that's what a lot of my coaches do. We help people dial that program in, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. How exactly can eating 1 meal a day increase performance? How does that work?
Well, one of the things we're finding out on the cellular level is, for instance, when your body becomes fat adapted, Stephen, and you're burning the ketones, beta-hydroxybutyrate for fuel. When you burn fat for fuel, okay, versus glucose, the fat produces more ATP at the cellular level. So in the area of performance, in your most metabolically active tissue, your heart and your brain, your heart beats 84 to 100,000 times a day. Your brain never shuts off. If you think about the ATP in the muscle in your bicep, when you're curling a weight, you maybe have 300 mitochondria in one muscle cell in your bicep. In your heart and your brain, you may have 3,000 mitochondria. And that's where the higher fat diet using the ketone, beta-hydroxybutyrate, really sends performance through the roof. Now remember, I was an endurance athlete. I was a triathlete for 20 years. In 1996, we started the ketogenic diet and we started increasing fat in our diet. My recovery got better. I couldn't believe it. My inflammation went down. And all the athletes that were crossing the finish line that were obese were now starting to lose weight for the first time. So we stumbled upon this diet and we've been tweaking it ever since 1996.
Mhm. And what benefits are there for prevention of disease?
Well, one of the things, if you think about disease, if you think about diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and dementia, that all comes from high inflammation and elevated blood sugar and insulin. I believe, Stephen, that they're all one disease. They're just compartmentalized by traditional medicine. I believe they're all one disease. So if we set somebody up on intermittent fasting, and if their first meal of the day is at 12 o'clock and their last meal of the day is 7, that gives them 16 hours of low blood sugar and low insulin levels and low inflammatory markers. That's very beneficial on the cellular level for people to start to incorporate. And it's something that you got to practice, because believe it or not, a lot of people are addicted to carbohydrates. A lot of people, once they go 4 or 5 hours without eating, they start getting shaky. So this is a process that you have to be coached through. Flying by the seat of your pants with this, can be a little scary for some folks. I'm already sweating. I got the DEA at my door. I shouldn't be talking about this. Just kidding.
Okay, so what are the benefits for the brain and heart function?
Yeah. What we do is we know that if we increase mitochondrial function at the level of the brain, Stephen, if we use TRT therapy and we increase testosterone and growth hormone and IGF-1 and we incorporate the fasting, we will stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis. And what that means, the mitochondria will go up in the brain will get more efficient, and then it'll release something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. We can stimulate the growth of new brain tissue, and then the veins and arteries to support that new brain tissue is called vascular endothelial growth factor. So I believe what we're talking about today is going to be a treatment protocol for stroke patients, CTE, and TBI and brain injury. I see that being the future on how it affects us at the cellular level.
Okay, and how to combine testosterone optimization therapy or hormone optimization therapy with this OMAD diet? How does the combination work?
I think the combination, I've been eating 1 meal a day probably for about 3 years. I've got great sleep. I've got great mental focus. And what the TRT therapy allows me to do, a lot of bodybuilders, and I'm not shooting down bodybuilders, I work with hundreds of bodybuilders over the years. I learned so much from them. But what we're finding out is if you're maintaining extra muscle mass and you're staying in the anabolic state and you're elevating mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin, if you stay in that state too long, you will accelerate the aging process. You will accelerate free radical damage. So by eating 1 meal a day and thinking about staying lean, and then you incorporate the testosterone therapy, that'll put a shield up for you for any type of muscle waste. Now, I've got a lot of this. I take a deeper dive in the Russ Scala YouTube channel on muscle wasting, on what happens with muscle wasting, because here in town, I've got a lot of elderly people in town. We've got 8,000 people a day turning 65 for the next 20 years, and your muscles are a reservoir for fuel. So all these doctors that are writing prescriptions for statins and all these drugs, these elderly people need to maintain their muscle mass, bro. Just like what we're talking about. That's why the information that you're sharing here in Europe, it's so valuable. It goes across the world. Maintaining your muscle mass as you age will keep you healthy. Because if you break a hip and go into a nursing home or you go in the hospital, it's your muscles that are a reservoir for fuel, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals that are going to keep you alive. If you're very skinny and you break a hip and go in the hospital, night, Irene.
Exactly. And now maybe for all the people that you convinced to start this OMAD diet, the most important question is, how do you exactly start that kind of diet? Because we are socially learned to do several meals a day. Everywhere you go, familial occasions, at work, everywhere there's eating.
No, I think that's a great question. And again, I'm not saying this is going to be easy. I just want all the listeners to start to think about this. We know throughout history, we're not designed for 3 meals a day. Chronic illness, diabetes, heart disease, and cancer is all from elevated blood sugar, high insulin, free radical damage. We kind of know that package. We know that the ketogenic diet is very important for families to maintain child obesity in this town is going through the roof as well. So what we do first is we start people on the ketogenic diet and we have them go slow. And this is about a 2-year process. Then we shift them over to intermittent fasting. We have them do 16/8 intermittent fasting. And we say, listen, if you're going to eat a couple of meals a day, start your eating window at 12 o'clock and shut your eating window down at 7. That gives you 16 hours of low blood sugar, okay, low insulin, elevated growth hormone. Your focus will get better. Your productivity will be better. You'll be more dialed in. Now, I use this diet on computer programmers. I use this diet on SWAT team members. I use this diet on professional pool players. They all stay focused, dialed in when their brain uses fat for fuel versus using glucose. So it is very tricky to do. You can't incorporate this into the general public because, I mean, one of my partners, Vicky Iliff, she has her kids on the ketogenic diet. She has the teachers call her when they're trying to feed the kids snacks. It's crazy. So every family, I know this is very hard. I don't have any kids, but a lot of my clients do have children. All I want the families to think about is, listen, we don't want to stop our kids from living life, but we definitely want kids to model our behavior and stay away from the sugar and the simple carbohydrates. I mean, there's kids right now we're dealing with, Stephen. We did imaging of their liver. They got fatty liver disease. They're 14 years old, and that's all from high carbohydrates and sugar. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not even alcoholic fatty liver disease. The fatty liver disease is coming just from diet. So I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist or bang the drum slowly. All I want to do is drip the science on our listeners here and have them think about, how do I keep my family and myself in the game? How do I stay healthy, out of a nursing home, and live into my 80s and 90s? All right? There's a lot of cultures that have been around for 100,000 years that live into their 70s that don't have any illness because they do persistent hunting. They only eat 1 or 2 small meals a day. They stay active. They're in the sunlight. They're close to the equator. We have data on this. We just can't seem to apply it to our lifestyle. And that's why I think forming communities is so important. You form a community in your neighborhood and you get everybody on the same page on what the neighbors are going to feed the kids, on whether the kids want candy and they start bitching and yelling. Everybody stay on the same page. We're saving these kids from becoming diabetics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Are there any supplements that you recommend in combination, especially with this OMAD diet?
You know, a lot of things. I've been taking a lot of information from people that are on the carnivore diet. There's a group with about 20,000 people called Carnivore, and I listen to what they say. A lot of these people have allergies and they have nutritional, they have low-level food allergies to vegetables. So once they go carnivore, they start to feel better, and then they only start to eat meat. Do I think that's the best? I don't know. Everybody's biochemically unique. But for some of those people that have food sensitivities to vegetables, listen, vegetables have an insecticide in them that protects the plants. Some humans are allergic to that insecticide that is naturally produced in the plants. So when they eat broccoli, cauliflower, whatever, they start to have an allergic reaction. So when they go to strictly carnivore and eat meat only, all of a sudden, for the first time in their life, they start to feel better. And it's like, oh my God, I got to do this diet for life. But yes, what we do is we do nutritional testing on our clients. So we look at the metabolic pathways. I mentioned in our last conversation that every day we need about 21 minerals, 13 vitamins, 8 amino acids, 2 essential fats. If we don't get that from food or we don't absorb it, we are not we eat, we are absorb. If we don't get that, we're going to mine it out of our own tissue. So the nutrients are very important. Your electrolytes are very important. Because once you do intermittent fasting or the ketogenic diet and you're on TRT, you're going to start to lose a lot of fluid. And that fluid has a lot of electrolytes in it. So you may have some brain fog, you may have some fatigue, you may have some heart arrhythmias. That's all due to the electrolytes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I follow these kind of fitness channels like Kino Body. I don't know if you know him. It's this kid, Gregor Gallagher. He's very lean and he's always talking about being lean, getting 6% body fat. And he's always talking about intermittent fasting. And it's a kind of flexible dieting, but it's more if it fits your macros kind of diet. And he also eats once meals a day, and he always show these kind of meals, but it's all a bunch of junk food really. So he's very he talks about being lean and eating junk food at the same time, and it's all about one meal a day. But that's
Okay.
not the kind of meal you are talking about, right?
No. But here's where we go. Listen, can you imagine? I hang out with cops and firemen. You think those guys are going to stop drinking? You think they're going to stop eating their donuts? Hell no. So here's what I got to do slowly. This is a lot of behavior analysis here, Stephen. You know what I'm talking about. You have to do it. So I tell these guys, let's work towards one meal a day. And in that one meal a day, eat whatever you want. Well, I still got 16 hours of low blood sugar. I still got 16 hours of low insulin. And then if they want to have a couple of beers in that eating window, I don't care, because they've been eating like shit for 20 years. If I could get them to this point, I don't want to be the food Nazi. I want to give them something to look forward to. And then as their once I get them on the testosterone and their brain chemistry feels better, then I can start removing the junk food from their diet. All right?
Okay.
That's sort of the progression. I think that all of us, since I work inside an addiction center right now and I've dealt with addicts for 20 years, I know sometimes changing your diet can be the toughest thing for some people can do. And I also know that a half a slice of bread for some people that are carbohydrate sensitive can shut off fat burning for 6 hours. A half a slice of bread. So this is why I'm doing more coaching now. Vicki Eiliff and I are doing more coaching with people in different parts of the United States. I started RussScala.com so you could download the ketogenic diet at no cost. Just click on that and download a 16-page document just to get the people thinking, get the people thinking about this. Because, at the end of the day, so many of my clients, Stephen, they're 200, 250 pounds. They look at me and they're like, I've tried everything. I'm about to give up. So when somebody's 250 pounds and they sit down with me for an hour, what am I going to do to get through to them? Right? So I've got to listen. I got to find some behavioral cues. And a lot of times when I get their hormone therapy up, when I get their testosterone levels up, their dopamine levels go up and they don't have the cravings as much. All right? That's where testosterone is going to really shine in the addiction market. It's going to be huge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much for the great insights, Russ. It was very informative for me as well as for the viewers.
Yeah, I always like doing that.